And we are live, but we're gonna just wait a little bit. Tapping in here. Check, check. I hope everybody's good today. I hope everybody's feeling well. I hope we're enjoying our Sundays. You know, we love to do our therapy hub on Sundays because it's a day of relaxation, a day of reflecting, and a day that we could kind of, you know, start our start our week off. So we are here. Before the trigger, choosing another path is today's topic. And as I turn the music down, so we can get into right into it. How's everybody doing? I hope everyone's doing well. Now, I'm your host, Daru once again, and you are tuned into Therapy Hub. And this is another episode. This is episode 6 of Before the Trigger. Okay. Today, we're talking about a moment that can happen in seconds. All right. A moment of anger, it's a moment of frustration, a moment where emotions take control, and one decision can completely change the direction of your life. Because sometimes we think that consequences begin after the action, right? But the truth is, the consequences begin with now. All right. Or the consequences begin with the decision, I should say, sorry. And, the decision that we make now. Now, before the trigger, before the punch that you throw, before the weapon, before the words that you can't take back, before the police lights, before the courtroom, there's a moment. And inside that moment, we still have a choice. Okay. Now, think about the last time you were extremely angry. And I'm going to think about the last time I was extremely angry because I spoke about this in the last episode when I really don't like getting angry because when I get angry, I tend to tense up. I tend to feel like, um, you know, uh, I get angry. I get very emotional. Um, I don't know what to say properly. I can't get the words out of my mouth properly. So sometimes I don't even necessarily say what I have to say the right way. Now, thinking about that, right? Getting angry, your heart's always racing once again, right? Your body gets tense. Like I said, what happens with me, and that's because your mind's moving faster than you can control. So your anxiety is going all over the place because your mind is like has all these thoughts, and you don't really know how to take control of it. Now, it could be because someone said something to you, or someone disrespected you, someone pushed a button that that would hurt because people, especially the people that know you, they know how to push your buttons, right? And suddenly you wanted to react or you did react. But here's something that we don't talk about enough. And this is also for myself. Anger is an emotion. We keep saying that over and over again. It's not an instruction. It's not something that um, we're told to do, right? It's not it's an emotion. So it happens, all right? Um, feeling angry, sorry, feeling angry doesn't mean that you have to act angry. And that's another thing that I'm learning because sometimes I show my anger when I get angry, but instead of showing my anger, I need to understand that when I show my anger, I'm actually acting angry, right? And it depends in which way. Okay. Now, feeling disrespected doesn't mean that you have to destroy your future either, because one moment of a second, you know you can make the wrong decision, or because you're angry, you're built up with all this emotion, all this anxiety, and you make the wrong decision, and in a snap of a finger, life changes everything. Okay. That's why there's always a moment between that emotion. Okay. Because feeling hurt doesn't mean that you have to hurt somebody else. Okay. It's and also it's the action that comes with it. right? That moment is where your power lives. Okay. So when you, in between that moment and the emotion and the action, that's where your power lives. That's where you actually are able to know how strong you are, and you're able to practice your strength. Now, a lot of the times, and this is something for me that I got to really take into consideration, because I'm choosing a different path. I'm, you know, clearing my record and doing things the right way. And because of that, I have to think about the choices that I make, and I have to think about the way I respond and the way I react to certain things. Because the minute I react a certain way, it has to be justifiable. Because if it isn't, then I could be caught up in the wrong end of the stick, right? I can kind of like get the wrong end of the stick, because one decision can put you in a situation that you can never imagine. Um, Sometimes, and like I talk about this before. Sometimes even when it comes to like road rage and things like that, on when you're driving, we're constantly fighting with strangers. We're arguing with strangers. We're giving people the energy, our energy, that the people we're giving people energy that they don't need, because we're taking the energy from people that we don't need. And the reason for that is because we put ourselves in situations sometimes without thinking first. Now, all type of things can come into hand with that: police, arrests, charges, right? Courtroom, lawyers, restitution money, probation, jail, criminal record. And suddenly the question isn't who was right. The question becomes, was that moment worth the consequence? Because sometimes, even if you're right in the situation, because based on how the law is, especially in Canada, you still have to pay a consequence, or you still have to kind of deal with the consequence to whatever action that played out. Because the person who made you angry might go home, and because you have, you know, uh, a criminal record, and you have maybe a past of anger, and different things that the police may investigate and say, hey, look, I think, even though he may not have been the aggressor, he seems like he's the more, he could be the more violent person out of this whole situation. Let's take him instead of the other person. And the other person might go home, and quite frankly, they might even just move on, and they might forget about what happened, may not even show up to court. Who knows, right? But it's the process that you had to go through, and they might even forget about what happened. But the one that's left carrying the consequences, you're the one that's left dealing with all the baggage after, right? Because even when you're dealing with the law and the system, things take time. This process, you have to go through court, you got to go through, you know um what you call it, remands, and all kinds of things, in order for for you to get to the end of it. Go through a long trial. That's time away from work, from your family, things like that. And that takes a lot of energy when it didn't need to. And I had to learn this the hard way many, 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 many times. And when I say many, many, many times, it was consistent until I had to put a stop to it. And it wasn't because of how other people were reacting, because once again, we talk about controlling yourself and not being able to control others, right? So I had to think to myself, okay, look, other people are going to still react and respond the way that they're going to respond. I can't control that. They may even try to test me, or they may even try to, like I say, I get tested every day, especially after after starting Therapy Hub. And I don't think it's they're doing it intentionally. I just think it's the way life works, right? The way things are. And some of them can be too, right? But like, I have to figure I have to really come together and with myself, and understand myself, and say, hey, look, I'm actually trying to do a good job with controlling me. However, I'm not doing a good job with responding and reacting the way people are, the way I should, right? And that's what I have to work on. And when I started to realize those things and I started to build those things one day at a time and step by step, I started realizing, whoa, I feel so much stronger. I feel so much better. Now, you know, because I can tell you, right? Especially for a young black man, and I don't mean to generalize this because it can happen with anybody. You know, the law is the law. They have to carry out the law and do their job, and arrest anybody. Doesn't matter the color of your skin, but primarily for a young black man, a young black male that has priors and has been through the system, they will look at that first, and they will, you will kind of be put on the back burner until there's some type of real evidence, real solid evidence that can get you out of that situation. So I always tell the young, the young people out there too, like, it's very important to be careful. And even me, once again, back to myself, as a public figure in an image, I have to be careful on how I respond to people, how I react to people, and how I carry myself out in public. Because I keep reminding myself every time that I react a certain way, I'm like, oh, okay, wait a minute. People could be watching me. Somebody could be, videotaping me. You know how it is. Oh, there's the rule, videotape them. Like, so for me, when I'm choosing another path, and I have those things have to come into my mind. So even for those out there that are not really into choosing another path or don't want to choose another path, this will still help you make the right decision so you don't end up in jail and prison for making the wrong and the quick, making, a quick, making a decision by the, heat of the moment is what is the word I'm looking for, and I should say the heat of the moment, because that can spare your lives. All right, in many different forms and ways. Now, this is why I say, like, walking away isn't weakness, because all these things actually make sense, right? Like, even somebody that is a well-trained fighter, or somebody that knows that they could, harm somebody else, sometimes they may even be disciplined to know that walking away is the best choice for them because of the consequences they may face. There's, I think, USC fighters out there that if they hit somebody, that they could be charged with assault with a deadly weapon because of the impact of their punch or whatever, because they're a professional fighter. So they have to think about how they deal with situations when they're in an encounter, or when they get angry, or whatever the situation is. Okay, because legal consequences aren't the only consequences. Right? It's called discipline. There's another courtroom for it, and that courtroom is inside your head. Okay, and that courtroom can bring up all kinds of things, right? If you've been to court, you know what they do. They bring up everything. So you're going to have regret, guilt, shame, anxiety, sleepless nights. You're going to be asking yourself, why did I do that? Um, why didn't I just leave? Why didn't I just stay home? Why didn't I just call somebody? Why didn't I take 5 minutes to cool down? Sometimes you ask yourself these questions. Everybody does as a human. So you can't always undo, though, what happened, right? You can only undo your thoughts and how you could have dealt with the situation. But when something happens, it happens, and you can't undo it. But you can learn to recognize the moment before it happens, and after, if it does, you can learn from it and be better. And nobody should judge you on your past ever if you are making um a good decision and changing your life and choosing another path. And I always tell people this, people that I talk to, politicians, and a lot of people that I know that are, that deal with public. And I always tell them that, you have to remember how important it is for people to um, take their time to really understand life, right? Um, because the impact on your family and the impact on other people that love you, um, all these things are going to, you know, um, somehow make you understand one day. People grow up, and people tend to, when they grow up, they tend to mature and they tend to make things or make better of situations or make better of whatever they're going through. Okay, so it's very important to understand that, and to be cautious of that. Now, the impact on family and loved ones is also very important, because I say that very, because for me, telling my kids, I think, that I was incarcerated destroyed me as because it was something that they, when I was absent, they used that, and they said, you were absent, you were always in and out of jail. But you know there were certain things beyond my control, and there's certain things that I couldn't control, and I had to deal with it. And I was honest about it because I wanted them to know that I wanted to do better. And there was goals, like, I promised that I was going to finish my high school, and that if I did that, you know, I could expect them to, because if I didn't finish my high school, how can I expect my kids to, right? I have to be an example. So I told them that I was going to do that, and I did. And everything that I told them that I was going to do, I did. I got out and I completely changed. And I think that impact on them and me going to jail, it really, it caused, and it's not their fault, it's that they have that, um, that feeling or that thought of, that I was absent because of that. And I understand how they feel because of it. Now that I'm, coming to realization that, you know, that was something that hurt them, and it was something that put them through, um, a traumatic event. Their father was absent and I was in jail, and it's a terrible place. They weren't really raised excuse me, they weren't raised in the, in the projects. Well, they were, but they were raised in, um they were raised in, like, Peel region. I'm not to say anything about Peel, guys. Don't don't get me, don't get on me now. But they were, it's a nice project. It wasn't really, you know of a, like, of anything in Toronto, in the city of Toronto. It was a nicer project. You know what I mean? Not to say nothing, things never happened there, but they grew up primarily in a good environment. And their mother ended up getting out of there and moving to a better community. And when they did that, um they still, they had this, to me, it's like they never had that life that I lived. And so for them to understand the struggle that I went through, and the reason, the cause, and the reason why I was there, was really hard to explain to them. So I understand how they feel, and it's not their fault. So we got to think about that. Okay. So moving forward, moving on, I want to bring that up, and I love to bring up these stories about my life, because I want people to understand that I know what I'm talking about, and I've been through this. I've gone through this, and I think that our families and, our loved ones, and the impact that we carry, the things that we do, and that carries a huge impact, for the ones that are part of your life, and the ones that care about you, the loved ones that you care about. um, Another thing that really made me change my life was my father and my grandparents, passing away. My grandmother was the last one to pass away. I didn't get to change my life when my grandfather died, but when, before my grandmother did, I did. And that was my goal. My goal was to make them proud, and make them, because my grandfather right now, if he'd seen the way I am right now, he's with me. But if he was here and he's seen the goals that I have accomplished and the stuff that I've accomplished, it would have made him very proud. He would have been very, very proud. I was his first grandson out of five girls, and um, you know, to me, I was like his boy, so his son. So I think this episode and this part of my life, I think he would be extremely happy, especially me moving on and going to be able to travel and these type of things. It's very I think he would. Yeah, and the whole time I think he's helping me with that. I think he's because he knows the good that I want, and he knows what I want for people and what I want for this community and what I want for this world. I just want better, and I want us to do better. And it starts with myself. So I had to, there's always a saying, and my grandfather always said this too, is that he said, Daru, you can't change the world unless you change yourself, right? If you, and that's, I think it's a typical saying that everybody has heard at one point, is that you can't change the world unless you change yourself. So I had to think about these things, think about my family, my kids, and the image and the person that I'm trying to be for them, the legacy that I'm trying to create. Now, your mother, your father, your children, your partner, your brothers, your sisters, your cousins, your aunts, your sisters, your friends, they're all a part of this. The ones that you really love and who are a part of your day-to-day life. Now, when you make one destructive decision, you're not always the only one affected. Okay, just remember that. Okay, when you make one destructive decision, you're not the only one that's affected. Your family even may have to watch you go to court. Your mom may have to come bail you out. My mother's bailed me out a couple of times. My grandfather has bailed me out numerous of times. Right, so they have to go through. They go through this. Right, your family, they have to watch you go through in and out of court. My grandfather had to watch me come out in handcuffs, and he didn't like that. He hated it, and he never wanted to see me in there. So he was always there for me. Rest in peace. God bless his soul. Now, this is how relationships can change forever, also, right? Because once again, I'm still trying to repair because I'm distant from my oldest children, and I'm still trying to repair that relationship and still trying to get have understanding and also take accountability for some of my actions and how I treated them as well. Not to say I treated them terrible, but I think as a father and as any parent can say, there's things that we could do better, and maybe ways that we respond to them, or how we, you know, uh, especially us older, you know, parents from the old school, the '80s. We're kind of it's different. We're a little bit more lenient on our children. So because of that, and the reason of that is because how our parents were. Some of our parents were absent. So when you know especially me, like I had a father, but I had two. Oh, you guys know the story. It's a long story. If you don't go back to my episodes, I'm not going to get into it. But um, my situations, there was still somebody there. I still had a father, but you know, um, I think I wanted to be that better father. I wanted to, you know, be that better person. So I had to make these decisions and understand that my family, my children, they come first. But I'm still trying to repair it. And I pray every day um, that yeah, that it will be repaired, and that we'll both come to an understanding of where we both come from. You know what I mean? Now, your mental health after the event, we're going to talk about now, because nobody really tells you about what happens after your adrenaline disappears, or after you're going through these, situations with your family and your kids and everything that I explained about, right? The world gets really quiet, and then you're left alone with your thoughts. You replay the moment over and over. What if I walked away, or what if I didn't react this way? I'm like that too with my children. Sometimes when I talk to them, I'm like, okay, well, I shouldn't have reacted to her in this way, or reacted to them in this way. I should have told them, it happens, right? But then what if I, also say to myself, what if I waited 10 minutes, or what if I just would have went for a walk first or had a coffee first, or especially in the morning before I respond to certain things, I like to just get up and have a coffee because I never know how I'm going to respond getting up in that morning, right? So I'm about to get up and get some water soon. But anyways, um, you know, we have to understand too, like, how do we recognize your triggers, right? What are the things that bother you? What are the things that get you upset? There's a saying they call it pet peeves, right? Now, not everybody has a pet peeve that will get them angry, but if constantly keeps happening or happens over and over and over again, I think that you eventually get tired of it and you eventually get frustrated, and then you tend to want to uh, explode, or you may take it out on somebody the wrong way. All right. One moment can cost you opportunities, a job, uh, a relationship, a friendship, a business opportunity, a volunteer opportunity, a chance to travel, a chance to build something, a chance to be a part of something. People remember actions. People remember how you act, and people remember how you treat them. And I think that's very important too when you're dealing with values of, the valuing your relationships with people, and understanding, and evaluating who's the right people to keep in your life. Okay. Because sometimes rebuilding trust takes years. And when I mean years, I've had situations where I haven't talked to somebody because they hurt me, and it's been like years and years, and like things are great now. For most, I've for most of my relationships, I've made amends with a lot of my past um relationships. The ones that I cared about, the ones that I didn't care about, I just moved on. But I think we got to remember that even though we want to forgive, or it's good to forgive, sometimes you can't do it right away. Sometimes it takes a lot of time, because when you're hurt, you're hurt. And sometimes if you rush if you rush to kind of like repair yourself when you're truly not fully built yet, and you're truly, not over certain things, then it can re-destroy that relationship. So sometimes rebuilding trust takes years, it takes time, and if the person's not ready, you just have to respect that. You may have to apologize, and quite frankly, you may have changed. You may have been a better person. You may, um, completely different than the way you were before, but because that person's still not, they haven't rebuilt their trust yet, they're not, fully healed. You know, it makes it 10 times more difficult, and it's better that you just allow that person to heal. Because and you know what, even if it doesn't happen, because you got to remember, you may genuinely, like I said, you may genuinely become a better person, and you may want to do better, and you may want to forgive, but some doors just may not reopen. Some people just may not want to reopen that. They may not want to relive that. They want to just live past, move past that, and that's fine. And sometimes we have to understand that, and take accountability when that happens. Okay. So we're gonna get into about our future, but for a second, I just want to get to. I want to take a quick water break. Give me 1 second. We're live right now. Okay, I'm back. Matching bottle for matching shirt today. And yeah, so that was good. I need another sip of that. So just imagine two paths, right? And we're going to be talking about your future now. But just imagine two paths. On one path, you react, okay? And everything changes, okay? That's one path. On the other path, you breathe, you step back, you leave, you call somebody, you go home, you sleep on it, you come back tomorrow with a clearer mind. Same anger, but just a different decision, a different outcome. And that genuinely gives you a different life. Genuinely gives you a different life. Now, that's what choosing another path means, right? It doesn't mean you're afraid. It doesn't mean that you're thinking beyond the moment. It means that you're thinking about your family. You're thinking about the ones that you love. You're thinking about your freedom. You're thinking about, everything that you enjoy about life that you don't want to get taken away from you or take for granted or take advantage of. So many of you may say, well, what do I do before I react then? Mr. Know It All, Mr. Perfect. I'm not far from perfect. Gotta ask ourselves, what do we like doing? You know what I mean? Who are you as a person? What do you see? Where do you see yourself versus where you see other people? And are other people as important to you than you? I mean, there's a way that we can kind of limit that. There's nothing wrong with that, but there's a way that you can limit that because you got to take care of yourself. Who doesn't want to take care of themselves? You don't take care of yourself, you're broken. You're left, left in space. You're left in, you know, lost in the sauce, left in the dust. The next time you feel yourself reaching that point, and this is a challenge. The next time you feel yourself reaching that point, stop. Step away from the situation. Just take a deep breath. Don't reach for anything that can escalate the situation, right? A weapon, your hand, be aggressive. Don't send a message. I have a bad habit of that. You're just like, they send you a message and just you reply right away. Oh. Don't send that message. That message can change everything too. Don't make the call. Don't call back right away. Maybe give it a day. Don't get in the car angry. I've done that before too. That's a big no-no. Just call somebody you trust. Today I had a moment where I spoke to somebody and it was just like very uncomfortable conversation. And I had to call somebody. I had to call somebody. And the conversation was great. It was brief because it was that's all I needed. Just needed to let it out. I got there, respond, right? They told me how I should deal with the situation moving forward, and it was a great conversation. So these things help because when we're trying to build ourselves, or we're trying to deal with our anger, and we're trying to deal with learn to deal with situations and learn to control our emotional intelligence, we have to know instantly how to react, because our minds, if you don't if you're not on that mindset, your mind will play tricks with you. Then your emotions will carry out what you're really what you're supposed to be doing, versus your conscious telling you, controlling your emotion. And we can only learn from each other. This is why I said, like, I know I'm not perfect, and this show has helped me so much grow. I think I'm like my own therapist, and I'm loving it because it's like it's helping me because I'm reading more, and because the more and more I have to do this podcast, and the topics that we have, is the more and more I'm learning, and the more and more that I'm reading and learning and gaining, right, knowledge from it. And I think that it's it's helping me grow as a person, and it's helping me grow as a man, and it's teaching me, you know the right way to do things, and the right decisions to make. So this is why I was saying, and I was saying this to my friend that I was talking to earlier, that I called for some help this morning, or just someone to speak to. And I said, it's so important that we listen to one another, because when we don't listen to one another, we don't know what the problem is. We don't know what the root cause is. We have to stop looking at the outside and start really understanding the inside, because w- that's the only way we're going to be able to know how to deal with one another, or how to help one another. Now, I want you to remember something. This is what I said before. You can't always control how people treat you. And this is what I'm realizing. This is back to my conversation today, is what my friend told me to. Like, we can't expect everybody, we can't please everybody, right? And we can't expect everybody to like you, or like the things that you're doing, or agree with you, or whatever it is, right? You can't control it. You can't control what people say to you, what comes out of their mouth. It's them, they're the ones that are doing it. You don't have control of that. You can't control every situation you walk into, but what you can do is work on controlling, right? We can work on controlling what you do next, how we respond, how we act. And sometimes what you do next, right, determines everything. Before the trigger, before the reaction, before the consequence, there's a choice. Choose your freedom, choose your family, choose your future, choose your healing, choose another path. Because one moment can change your life forever. And you'll be sitting down thinking, hey, man, why did I make that decision? Why did I do this? Why didn't I just listen? Why didn't I sit down and listen to another brother talk to me? Like, my brother was telling me I shouldn't have went here. I should have stayed home, or I should have, came with him, or left with him when he left. but I want to stay or whatever the situation is. Sometimes it just takes that little second, that one decision, and we don't even realize it. It's not it's not some of it's not. I can't say it is our faults, but it's like if you don't think fast, you can lose that thought, and that's what why it's important, so important for us to keep continuing to use our brains all the time, even when you're talking. Like you may say something and forget it, train of thought, because your brain's going so fast, right? Everyone loses their train of thought. Um, I hope everybody enjoyed this episode. If anybody has any comments, please drop it in right now. Maybe I can answer some questions because we are live today, so I do have some time to ask some questions. You're more than happy to drop whatever a comment on the chat. Um, and yeah, we can answer some questions. But if not, I think I think that we can take this episode without a grain of insult. We can take this episode without disrespect. We could take this episode without feeling angry, and we can understand the consequences that come with those decisions. Because I am a perfect example of that. And if there's anybody that you need to listen to when it comes to that, is me. Um, because at 43 years old, I'm still learning. I'm still growing. But the best thing about it is I have support systems. I have people that I can talk to, and I have, people that I can really rely on, that I know that will lead me in the right direction. All right. But I just want everybody to know, right? Once again, that one decision can change your life. There's one path, or there's two paths. One path of destruction and one path of success. So we got to learn which ones to take. I want to take the success path, not the destruction. All right. I'm Daru. This is Therapy Hub. We need to stop the violence, start the healing, and remember, you don't have to win with every confrontation. Sometimes walking away is the biggest victory. It's your boy Daru once again. Till the next time I see you. Peace and love.